Okay, so there is this girl in 6th grade who is the coolest kid. She listens to classic rock. She brought like a Discman thing to school the other day, like, you know, those CD players that are like Walkmans but CD players. Anyway, so I gave her our Now That's What I Call Summer bingo board. It needed some editing, so let me show you how I edited it. I'm gonna give it to all my kids in January, but I gave it to her ahead of time. So it did at one time say an all around good time, or no, and all around time wasters to help us through, and I changed it to awesome, so it would be school appropriate. You guys, someone gave me a gift card to Meijer. So Meijer is a grocery store near where I live. It's pretty much a Michigan-based grocery store that has spread like crazy all around the Midwest. And it's like a monopoly on grocery stores. And also, it's pretty much awesome. Anyway, I have a gift card there. So what could I buy? I could buy groceries, clothes. No, I don't really buy clothes from Meijer. I could buy like kitchen gadgets, like an Instapot or something. But it's only 20 bucks. So what can you do to 20 bucks? I mean, say I put it towards groceries and it's just gone and I don't even realize that someone gave me 20 bucks to Meijer. Books. Books are the answer. Gift cards spent. So I got the new Anthony Doerr book, which totally used up all my gift card in and of itself, but the reason I splurged is because it was on Obama's list, and I think his list came out today of his top 10 favorite books of the year. So when I get home, I'm going to show you guys my top 10 of the year, because if Obama, you know, releases his list, I feel like it's my turn too. And also, I got this book, which was on sale. A Handful of Ashes by Mccarthy. Never heard of this author. I thought the cover looked cool. Whenever I see something like this where the cover looks cool, I will often go on Amazon just to see like how other people thought it was, because like I don't want to judge a book by its cover and have it be like 2 stars. And granted, the stars on Amazon are just like one metric as opposed to a whole bunch of data points. But anyway, it's basically like a thriller mystery sort of a thing, but it's written by a doctor, and I think that would be super cool to hear like things told in an accurate sort of way because the person's a doctor. So this is their second book. The first book was The Hollow Men, which I have never read, but let me know if you guys have read it. Okay, and then I picked up more corn chicken nuggets, because I've had other corn stuff before and it's fine, but their chicken nuggets are my favorite now. Like, I had them for the first time last night, and I think they're the best vegan chicken product out there. That's what I think. So let me know. In the US, we don't have all the corn stuff. It doesn't seem like, I know that Heather eats their like pretend deli meat, and we don't have that here. But we do have like burgers, chicken nuggets, stuff like that. You guys, Obama came out with his top books of the year list, and I was in the middle of making mine and raving about all the books, and then my camera like cut off because I think I like ran out of memory or something on my phone. Anyway, so I'm gonna have to restart, and I hope I can remember what order I put these in. But I was so excited about what I was saying. So hopefully I can just keep that engagement and excitement this time around, because like I really do love these books, and just talking about them brought back so many memories that just like lit me up. I was so excited. So anyway, I'm sharing with you the top 10 of this year. These are books that I read this year, not necessarily ones that were published this year. And my first one was East of the Mountains by David Gutterson. So he is well known for Snow Falling on Cedars. However, I've never actually read that book. Heather raved about it at some point last year. Not that she read it last year, but I think she was just talking about how it was one of her favorites. And so basically, I decided I should probably read that, but then I never read it. But I did go to Ann Arbor in March, I think, February or March, and I was in a used bookstore and picked up this book, which the premise of it actually sounded more interesting to me than Snow Falling on Cedars, and no idea which is better, but this one was good and is number 10 on my list. So basically, there's this doctor, and he is diagnosed with colon cancer, which after a while ends up being terminal. So he is kind of wrestling with this terminal cancer diagnosis, and decides to go off and see his family one last time, and then he's going to go into the woods or the mountains or something and kill himself. He doesn't want to tell his family that he has terminal cancer, so he's just kind of hanging out with them one last time, and then he's going to go on and, you know, do the deed. What I found really good about this one was just this whole idea of like how much every tiny choice that we make impacts those around us, and just how interconnected we all are. It was just such a beautiful story, and I definitely think that you guys should read it. Next up, I have a little note that I wrote my other two on, because for some reason I don't own them, don't know why. The first one is The Five. So The Five tells the story of the women who were murdered by Jack the Ripper. And basically the premise is that we always hear about these murderers, serial killers, all this sort of stuff, but we never hear about the people that were actually the ones that were murdered. And we really need to raise up their stories and their voices, rather than like make the other side the stars of the show. And this is a book actually I did own at one time. I ended up getting rid of it because I kind of was like, oh, I really enjoyed it, but okay, like I don't need to keep it. And then it made its way onto my top 10, and I think the reason is because of how much it stuck with me. So what I found about these stories of the five women is that they were all so different, but they all just were connected through this thread of basically that some man in their life who was like their main support or whatever went away, whatever reason. Maybe they died, maybe they got separated, whatever. And basically the society at that time was set up in a way where women were not able to sustain themselves as a single woman. So that led them down this like spiral, this downward spiral of just like their life could have been up here, and it just kept going, all because of that one incident. And it just made them more vulnerable to Jack the Ripper, basically. So I thought that was really interesting, just to think about like myself as a single woman. Like I'm able to support myself, I'm able to do everything that I can, and it's not really a big deal to me that I'm single, but it was not really an option in that society. Like it wouldn't happen. The next book I have on here, so number 3, actually, rewind. No, that was correct. Okay. So this was 10. Then the 5 was 9, and now 8. I lost my numbers. Okay. So with number 8 is What Doesn't Kill You by Tessa Miller. This is a book I listened to on Audible, and basically I felt like there had been a ton of discussion around disabilities and chronic illness and stuff like that on YouTube in the past year, BookTube specifically. And this is a book that is a memoir of a woman who has Crohn's disease. So she goes into graphic, super disturbing detail about what it actually means for her to have Crohn's disease, how she was diagnosed, this whole like struggle to get a diagnosis. And like, I know Crohn's disease as like a stomach issue, intestinal sort of thing. I didn't realize the extent of like, what does it actually mean to have Crohn's, and it was just absolutely horrible. So it definitely gave me a lot of empathy for people that have that situation in their life, and I found it super, super interesting. The next book I have is 10, 9, 8, 7, What Passes as Love. This was recommended to me by Dee Dee, and it was so good and so fast-paced. Basically, this girl is born into slavery, and she actually is the daughter of her master, which is a pretty common thing. And she is very light-skinned, and she also, being the daughter of the master, is kind of like favored by the master's mother. And so she gets access to a lot of things the other slaves don't have access to, such as education. She is often like always nearby when the other kids in the household are getting lessons and stuff like that. And so there's definitely a separation between her and her siblings because she is in slavery and they are not. But this grandma, it kind of advocates for her and tries to get her access to things. So when she turns 16, basically she's really upset because she's expecting some of the things that the other girls got when they turned 16, a beautiful dress, a special day, whatever. And that hasn't happened yet because I think that people kind of forgot it was her birthday. So when she tells her grandma figure that it is her birthday, the grandma ends up taking her into town, and she gets a little bored while the grandma lady is like shopping and stuff, and gets distracted and asks like, hey, is it okay if I like browse over here for a bit or whatever? And the grandma's like, yeah, cool, except not in that term because, you know, it's in the 1800s. And basically one thing leads to another, and she just kind of gets distracted while she's like shopping or, you know, looking around or whatever. And before she knows it, like, she can't find this lady that she's with. And so it kind of like appears like she ran away, but like she didn't mean to run away. And the book just continues after that. So yeah, super good. Recommend to loads of people. Like, definitely read it if you're into historical fiction. All right, next up, and then I think I should probably stop my video just so I don't lose what I already recorded. The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. This one basically is a thriller, ghost, murder sort of a thing. This girl, her aunt went missing back in the day before this girl was born, and basically her aunt went to work at the Sundown Motel and went missing. This girl is now an adult, young adult, I would say, and it's now 2017, and she decides that she is going to try and search for her aunt. So she actually ends up getting a job at the Sundown Motel. She didn't really intend for that to happen, but, she just went to that town, and I mean, she kind of needed a job, and they were hiring, and it just worked out. Like, how else can you learn about your aunt than by working the actual same place that she worked? So that's what happens, and crazy stuff goes down. I will read anything Simone St. James writes, and she actually has a new one coming out in March. In the 4th and 5th spot is not room, but this is a placeholder to remind me to talk about the 2 Emma Donoghue books that I read. The first one is The Pull of the Stars, and that one I liked slightly less than the other one, which is The Wonder, but I loved them both so much. It was so hard to put one on top of the other. Basically, The Pull of Our Stars is about a maternity ward during the flu pandemic, and is fast-paced and crazy. And The Wonder is a much slower paced book, basically about this girl who's in this Irish town. Her family is super, super religious, and they have basically said that their daughter is being sustained by the bread of God, the manna from heaven, or something like that. And this woman is hired to basically supervise this child to prove that she actually is being sustained by that, and that it actually is a miracle, because the family is saying it's a miracle, and other people are like, okay, hang on, we need more people to investigate this to make sure it's a miracle before we just like proclaim it to the world. So that is what that book is about. Slower pace, spending all day, every day with this girl, trying to figure out what's going on and how she's staying alive when like literally she's not getting food. So there's that. And then I found Susan Meisner this year. I've read a few of hers since then, but this is my absolute favorite, and this is the one that actually came out this year, I believe. The Nature of Fragile Things. This is about, I feel like I have a lot of historical fiction in here when I didn't even think I liked historical fiction that much, but this is about a woman who is basically a mail order bride for this guy. Maybe it's not mail order, but anyway, she like marries this guy like right when they get off the train or however she gets to him. And it's just this huge question of like, why did he want to marry someone so quickly? Why did she choose to get herself into this situation? And like, what is the secret behind both of them? Like, what about her would make her want to just up and marry someone? What about him wants to just up and marry someone? Like, it's just like super shady. And this book is super twisty. Let me see if it says anything. Oh, so Sophie is an Irish immigrant. So it says she's living in a New York tenement, and she's done with that. So that kind of explains like her side of the thing. But why does this guy just like want somebody? And like, he does have a daughter, so like he does kind of need someone to care for his daughter, but things just get real shady real quick. Okay, we're down to the top 2. I'm wondering if anyone knows what they are before I say them. Okay, number 2, Personal Effects by Robert A. Jensen. This is the book that he sent to me. It is signed, and I have a beautiful letter from him. This book is about how to keep yourself safe in an emergency. It gives background basically on what his job is like as being in charge of the world's leading disaster management company. And yeah, but the even though he's talking about all these cool, I shouldn't say cool situations, because the job is definitely interesting, but it's all of his work is because bad things have happened to people. So I guess I shouldn't really say cool, but he talks about all the things he does, and he talks about himself a little bit, and he talks about what you can do to prepare. But I think like the big part of this book is, number 1, what should your mindset be? Like, can you worry about stuff all the time, or maybe should you be more actively preparing while just realizing like, I've done all I can, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and I have to move on with my life and stop worrying about emergencies while also being prepared, like I said. And yeah, then the other parts are just like tips, like little small changes you can do in your life to make sure that you are better prepared, or that you increase the odds of you surviving in an emergency. Super good. Definitely will stick with me. And I think like that's the thing about these books are basically that like some of them are fast paced, so good, couldn't put down. And other ones are like, well, this is a book that's going to stick with me for a while. This is a book that changed me in a big way or a small way. And that leads us to number one, the book that like blew my mind with all this stuff that I did not know before. And that is Columbine by Dave Cullen. So Columbine happened when I think I decided 7th grade. I did the math at one point and I was like in 6th or 7th. I think I was in 7th. So I knew what it was. I saw it on the news, blah, 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 blah. But I was also young enough where I wasn't like paying full attention to it. And so I had these ideas in my head, but they were not super well informed. And honestly, after reading this book, I feel like the things that were in my head are probably the same as what was in other people's heads. Like if you were to ask someone on the street, like, what do you know about Columbine? Tell me about the killers, like anything like that. Honestly, even though I was in 7th grade, they would probably give you some of the same answers. And this blows that out of the water. It tells you all the things that were not true at all, that the media kept repeating, and kind of making true, all the false news. It also talks about different things that basically you assume to be true, also based on the news, like things about people being heroes or martyrs or anything like that. And I think that it also goes into like how the police handled this situation, because I think there's this this Black Lives Matter movement, which is really, really important, that's going on, but it's just one major part, but one part of some of the problems we have with police officers. And I feel like this was another example of things not being handled very well. And I think we need so much reform. And I don't know what that looks like because I'm not a police officer. I really think that they need some support in figuring things out for themselves. But anyway, it just blew my mind, broke my heart, made me mad. It was very, very, very good. So those are my top 10. Please, please, please let me know when you post your top 10 of the year, or just make a list below if you're not on BookTube. However you want to tell me. I basically plan to make a spread in my bullet journal where I talk about like, okay, I want to read like my favorite booktubers or my favorite Instagram people or just my favorite friends I talk to on VOXER or whatever, with their favorite books. So I want to know your favorite books. Let me know, please, please, please. And yeah, basically I'm just going to hang out and go to yoga tonight. So I will check in with you guys tomorrow.